Athens, 416 BC. A dinner party. A comic playwright stands up, drunk probably, and explains where love comes from. He says humans were once spherical creatures with 4 arms, 4 legs, 2 faces, and 3 sexes. Zeus sliced them in half for getting too ambitious. Since then, each half wanders the earth searching for its other half. Find yours and you'll never want to be separated. That's the soulmate. The man who invented it was the most celebrated comedian in Athens. His name was Aristophanes. He put it in the middle of a philosophical dialogue about love, in a speech Plato likely intended as satire. We took it and built a civilization around it. Here is what the Greeks actually had for love. At minimum, 4 distinct words, each one describing a completely different experience with completely different expectations. Eros, Philia, storgē, agapē. Not synonyms, not moods, diagnoses. Each one named a different mode of relating to another person, what you could ask from it, how long it was designed to last, what it was supposed to become. We don't have 4 words, we have 1. And when the only word you have for erotic longing is the same word you use for family devotion and divine grace, you lose the ability to read your own life. You used the word soulmate. You meant it. You got it from a drunk comedian at a dinner party in 416 BC and nobody told you. Plato thought Eros was real. He also thought you were supposed to use it and leave. In the Symposium, Socrates relays the teaching of a woman named Diotima, almost certainly a character Plato invented to say something he couldn't put in his own mouth. Her argument. Eros begins with the desire for one beautiful body. Then, if you're doing it correctly, it expands. You begin to see that beauty in all bodies, then in minds, then in ideas and institutions and knowledge itself. And eventually, if you complete the ascent, you arrive at beauty itself, eternal, unchanging, beyond any particular person. The point of loving a beautiful person, according to Plato, is to eventually stop fixating on the person. That's not a cynical reading, that's the doctrine. Eros is a ladder. The person is the first rung. The ladder goes up. We took the first rung and called it a destination. We built ceremonies around it, contracts, entire industries selling you the idea that the madness at the beginning is what love is, and anything quieter that follows is a diminishment. Diotima, via Plato, would call that a failure of nerve, not a love story. A person who found the door, sat down in front of it, and called that arrival. You knew the feeling at the beginning was different. You've been waiting for it to come back. That's not a relationship problem, that's a philosophy problem. You were never taught what Eros was for. Aristotle spent 2 full books of his Nicomachean Ethics on Philia, not Eros, not passion. Philia, the love between equals, who genuinely admire each other's character. He divided it into 3 types. Friendships of utility, you're useful to each other and both know it. Friendships of pleasure, the company is enjoyable, the time passes well. And friendships of virtue, you love the other person for who they actually are, not for what they give you or how they make you feel. He was not diplomatic about which one lasts. Utility dissolves the moment the usefulness ends. Pleasure dissolves when the pleasure fades, and he noted this was especially common among the young, driven by emotion rather than judgment. Only virtue friendship lasts, because it's built on something that doesn't change on schedule, the other person's character. Then he added this: You cannot rush it. He wrote that men cannot know each other until they have eaten salt together, until they have shared enough time and difficulty to see who the other person actually is. Real philia is slow. It requires years, not months. It requires seeing someone lose something. Most of your friendships, by his measure, are utility or pleasure arrangements. They'll dissolve when the job ends, or the city changes, or the habit breaks. You've been telling yourself they're the other kind. You know which friend would still be there if you had nothing to offer. You've been meaning to call them back for 6 weeks. Agape barely exists in classical Greek. Homer barely uses it. Plato uses the verb occasionally, in passing. Aristotle uses it mostly to mean to be content with. It was a low-frequency word for a low-intensity feeling, something like fondness, perhaps, or greeting with warmth. Then the New Testament needed a word for something Greek had never quite named: unconditional, self-giving, divine love. Not desire, not admiration, not family instinct. Something that gives without expecting return, loves the unworthy, and comes from God. The noun agape appears 116 times in the New Testament. The early Christians didn't adopt a prestigious philosophical term. They picked a quiet word and made it carry everything. Jerome translated it into Latin as caritas, dearness, regard, the holding of something precious. The King James Bible rendered 1 Corinthians 13 using the word charity, not love, charity. The highest human expression of divine grace was named charity. Then charity decayed. By the 20th century, charity meant spare change. And the word that had carried unconditional self-giving love for 2 millennia quietly retired, and love absorbed its freight too. One English word now carries what Greek split across 4. What you feel at 3 months and what you feel at 30 years. What you feel for your child and what you feel for a song on the radio. The same syllable. No distinctions. No map. You're navigating with one word for terrain that has 4 completely different elevations. And you keep calling it falling out of love, when what actually changed was the type, and you never had a word for the new one. This week you used the word love for your partner, your child, your best friend, a meal, a city, and a song. You meant something completely different each time. One was Eros, or was once. One is Philia, the slow one, the one Aristotle spent 2 books defending, the one you've been neglecting for a reason you can't quite name. One is storgē, bone deep, unchosen, the kind that doesn't need to earn anything. One was habit. One was real. You used the same word for all of them. And because you used the same word, you measured them all against the same standard. The electric one, the Eros, the madness, Plato said, was designed to transform into something else. The one that was never built to last unchanged. Modern neuroscience spent decades running brain scans before it arrived, independently, at the same conclusion the Greeks named in the 5th century BC. Lust, romantic attraction, and attachment are 3 distinct systems with different brain chemistry, different timelines, and different purposes. Helen Fisher published this in peer-reviewed journals in 2002. Aristotle had it in 350 BC with a quill. The Greeks left a map. 4 words, 4 different landscapes, 4 different futures. You were handed 1 word and told it was enough. Everything you walked away from because it stopped feeling like the beginning, everything you're holding on to for the wrong reasons, every relationship you couldn't diagnose when it changed, that was the cost. 1 syllable, everything it couldn't hold, all the weight you put in the wrong place.